Hello and welcome to the Authority of Love. I'm your host, Greg Williams, along with our co-host, Adia Wushner, Executive Director of Kentucky Right to Life, and this is Wednesday for Women. Adia, thanks for joining us, and we're a little different situation here with the Zoom, but it'll work. So thanks for doing that.
We're going to make it work thanks to technology, right?
That's right.
So,
Yeah. Well,
all
let me
things.
ask you this before we get started on our topic today. How was your Mother's Day?
It was beautiful. It was actually a beautiful Mother's Day. I wasn't with all of my children,
Right.
but I had time with grandchildren the week before, and so that was a little bit of a first. But with this texting and sending pictures and sending love is just beautiful. So
Yeah.
we'll all be together at graduations next week.
Oh, okay. And that's part of the positive side of technology, right? We know it's neutral. There's positive and negative, but
Well, I
that's
have a lot of negatives.
that's
What I'm
right.
trying to
So
work
that was
with.
good to share a positive side of technology. And we had a wonderful time. We got to celebrate. I was with my dad part of the day. You know that story, taking care of him. And then I got home and we had a Mother's Day with my wife, Amy, and our sons and their wives. And my daughter was with us. And the interesting thing, Adia, is that both of our daughters-in-law have had miscarriages within the last 6 months or
Yeah.
so. And now our oldest son, Lansing, and his wife are expecting again, and it's moving along, good health and everything right now, October 30th. But they've all been mothers already. We honor that life. And so they've all been mothers already. We got them a card and they were so grateful. And it was a
It
wonderful
was a
day.
special Mother's Day. I did want to share just one thing. We went to the cemetery to visit the great, I don't know how many people go to visit cemeteries anymore, but I noticed
Right.
the cemetery was full of flowers on Mother's Day. But what really touched me, there was a car parked there, and there was a man, not a little man, but a man sitting in a lawn chair with an umbrella, sitting there at a grave, and he was reading his Bible
Oh,
to, I guess, his beloved wife, and it
yeah.
just was so touching. Just
Oh, that's good.
and I thought about all the years that they were married, and I wanted to climb over and look at the tombstone and see, but I thought
Yes.
it was a little intrusive. But
I
it
would
was
have
really
probably asked them.
it was really touching to see him just sitting there spending the day with his wife and the mothers of his children and grandmothers. So
That's beautiful.
uh,
Well,
we do have
speaking,
a little prayer or a little poem
yes,
today.
yeah. But before you get to that, speaking of honoring life in our daughters-in-law in their miscarriages, but still they had life in their mothers, 705 days since Roe was overturned,
Yes.
652 since the last legal abortion in Kentucky. So we praise the Lord for that. And with that, would you share the prayer poem that you have for us?
And I'm sure people have heard this before, but just to share it again, it's entitled Mother. The most important person on the earth is a mother. She cannot claim the honor of having built Notre Dame Cathedral. She need not. She has built something much more magnificent than any cathedral, a dwelling place for an immortal soul, the tiny perfection of her baby's body. The angels have not seen and been part of such a blessed, such grace. They cannot share in God's creative miracle to bring new saints to heaven. Only a human mother can. Mothers are closer to God than the creator, than any other creature. God joins forces with mothers in performing this act of creation. What on God's good earth is more glorious than this, than to be a mother?
Mm, wow. Yeah, that's great. And we also remembered my mom who passed away 2.5 years ago. And so that was a great memory and owe so much to her and my dad, my parents, but my mom at this time of the year, especially, we think of that. So that's a beautiful poem and a prayer, essentially honoring mothers. And that's a great thing. So, well, listen, Idia, here's the real issue with all of that. Why are these issues so critical? Why do we need a biblical foundation because of the impact on lives, families, churches, and culture with dignity of life, loving God, loving self, and then loving others? I know you deal with that every day. So share something with us about that dignity of life.
But we have talked about this, and I think we need to build more in with the listening audience, as they listen to us and we engage more, is to talk about why there is this cultural confusion. Why are we so confused in who we are? Because that's really what it comes down. It's almost like anthropologically. Who are we biblically?
Mhm.
The uniqueness of who we are, and we've said it before, is we are created in the image and likeness of our creator, of God. He loved human beings, when he created us so much that he endowed that uniqueness upon us. No
Yes.
other creature No other creature has that uniqueness, and in that comes the dignity that comes
Yeah.
in our human life, because dignitata, coming from the Latin word, means comes from God, dignity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
we've lost that in our culture today, Greg.
we've so lost it, and there's several scriptures that refer to what brings that about. I'm thinking of one right now in Romans 1, where it says that as we continue to walk away from the truth and suppress it in unrighteousness, then God then gives us over to our depraved mind. And it's interesting that the reference there is to sexual immorality, natural men and women, unnatural men and women, and homosexuality, and then on over to that depraved mind. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of what we're seeing today. James says it this way: a double-minded person is unstable in all they do. So when you are still trying to hang on to God, or you're trying to get rid of God, which we can never do, and then trying to live life your own way, this is what we're going to come up with. And I know you see it every day.
Well, and what happens is, we've talked about this too. We want to create our own reality to the fact and push God out of it so that certain things are acceptable.
Right.
We can partial out what kind of termination of a human life is acceptable, and then we'll say what kind of relationships are acceptable.
Yes.
And a lot of times we justify so much out of great love, that compassion that God gives us to love others.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, Greg, we can't separate it.
No.
We find ourselves stuck and can't separate it. But what we're really doing is we're trying to create a false reality.
Yeah.
Instead, we all also want to become gods ourselves. We want to create what truth is. And in doing that, we're pushing God aside and trying to become, in a sense, little demagogues ourselves.
Well, and there's two things that come to mind as you say that. We continually take ourselves back to that tree of knowledge of good and evil, where the enemy says, go ahead and eat that fruit and you can be like God. And so you get to make the rules. The second one is the idea of love. You said something about it. I think there is a lot of passion, but when we, in these issues and emotion, I understand that, and we don't dismiss it, but we've got to bring it back and rightly order it. And the only way you rightly order that is in the love of God, agape, which means we prefer God above all else. When we quit doing that, there ceases to be love, no matter how passionate or emotional we are about something. And that's why you asked the question or made the statement, we are really confused. And so I look forward to us as we move forward to hearing what you have to say about some of these foundational issues and how they impact even the issues in our elections and our candidates.
Yes, because those running for office often want to reflect on what the people want. But if the people become confused, and we've got so much pressure and the commercialization that's going on in our culture, and then the elected officials have to choose between the principle that they ran on, that they believe in, and sometimes they'll say, but this is what the people want.
Yes.
And then what happens is you're sacrificing yourself. And it's, to be leaders, we have to be bold and courageous, great leaders. And that's really what we need. They're not pastors, they're not preachers, but at the same time, we need strong and bold leaders.
Yes. And I know you'll agree with this. Here's the thing, every candidate runs on a conservative platform. No matter who they are, they're going to tell you what they think the people want to hear. And they know that people want to say, we value life and we want our kids to grow up and not be sexually active and those kind of things. So they will run on that platform, but they will not govern from that platform. Then they start going back to where the money comes from and pushing some of these ideologies and agendas that are so broken. You know what? I would much rather a person tell me, a candidate, I don't believe in that. Thank you. But don't tell me you do believe in it and then go and govern from a standpoint where it's completely apart from God's word.
Nervous when you get there. I was an elected official. I know that pressure is on there. And I often said, please never let me waver from my position.
Right.
But there's a lot of pressure. I remember one time someone who had asked me to run many years before that came to me and said, do you have to be so pro-life? And I said, you're the same person who came to me, this was a judge, and said, we need an articulate pro-life woman to run for office. And now, because maybe this group over here or that group don't quite like it, or you want me to move away from whom I am. Yes, I was lower taxes and right to work and great education. but there's a basic principle that has to be that north on our compass. And we've talked about that guides our decision making.
Yeah. And we will do that more as we move forward because it impacts so many other things that have to be either on that foundation or be brought back to it. And
And
again,
we've seen, right,
don't
we
be
talked about it.
double-minded.
Yeah. We've seen it in the church, kind of in contemporary Christianity, in a sense. There's an anthropologically a shift sometimes that happens because
Yes.
you want to hold on to people. You don't want to lose them from the pew. So sometimes we want to soften the truth. And I think pastors also have this great dilemma before them,
Yeah.
but they're entrusted with those souls.
Well, that's right. And yet, if you keep them there under anything compromising of truth is false. So if you keep them there under false pretenses, what are you really giving them? And so we need to be careful about that and be gracious in everything we do and gentle and respectful and loving, but do not compromise that truth. Make sure they hear all of it. So, and I love what you all do. And our good friend David Walls at Family Foundation, you guys continue to uphold that and help churches that are willing. But again, I'm going to reiterate this before we close out. Don't tell me one thing and then go do another. Just let me know where you stand. And if you don't believe in that, good. Many other people might vote for you. I may not, but others may. But please tell us where you really stand and what you're going to do. And so we need to have
the voters deserve truth. And what happens is they get worn out and they quit coming to vote because they become disappointed. And I'm sorry, let's honor the people we've asked to allow representatives and senators to serve. And that's really what it is. It's about serving your state, your commonwealth, or your nation. So let's honor those people.
Yeah. Yeah. And you told the people this is what you wanted to do. That's why they voted for you. Make sure you're doing it.
Yeah. And honor truth. Honor.
Exactly right. Honor that truth. And the truth, the honesty is that I'm telling you where I stand on this, and then I will go act on it. Good. Just make sure you do. Right.
And Greg, I think, I'm not a big United Nations person, but, it was interesting. In 1948, they wrote the Declaration of Human Rights. Mm-hmm. And it speaks in that declaration about the inherent dignity and equality and inalienable rights of every member of the human family. Mm-hmm. And that is characterized about the urge to speak truth about the human person. Somehow, over 75 years, we've just keep wandering away and kind of reinventing new truths.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring us back to that, what that inalienable right ingrained in us by the Creator.
Right. And we'll get to that more and more. I know we're going to unpack that more. So quickly, scholarships, how are they going?
Oh my goodness. The final 10 selections are done. We're calling candidates. We're calling the graduates down. I am so, the quality. I can't wait to publish some of the video or the essays that they have written, and maybe have some of the students on to hear their voices. Yes, just hear them. It's exciting. It's hopeful.
Oh, it sounds great. Last thing is it's 6 days till the election. Now, early voting has started. May 21st, next Tuesday is the election day, so we say. And so be sure to get out. Tell them where they can find the information, Adia, as we close.
Yes. As far as our voting information, they can go to our website at kyrighttolife.org. They can also call the office. People have been calling and asking to pick up an election guide, voter guide, 859. Oh, sorry. 502-895-5959.
Thank you, Adia. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your prayers. Thanks always to the Lord. Make it a great day in the love and lordship of Christ. I'm Greg Williams with Adia Wushner, and you're listening to the Authority of